54 of the 102 teacher absences were filled with substitutes, or about half were unfilled at 9:30 p.m. Around 9 o'clock, we learned that the automated calling system had completed calling subs with last names A through S, I'm sorry. So there weren't many other teacher substitutes left to contact. The automated sub calling system stops calling at 10 o'clock p.m. and resumes again at 5:30 a.m. the next morning. In addition to the substitute calling system and the data that we had more information to consider from the elementary principals who had been contacting their teachers. Essentially, they told us that approximately a third of all elementary teachers were planning to work on Friday. Approximately a third were not planning to report to work, and from approximately a third, they received no response. So we didn't know about that third. Based on comments the principals received from the teachers they talked to, there was significant concern that we did not yet know all the teacher absences and more would be coming in overnight. Additionally, the high school administration was aware that high school students had planned to walk out on Friday morning in opposition to the governor's budget repair bill. And the principal was deeply concerned about managing a student demonstration, a size we did not know about, without adequate supervision and without teachers who knew the students. We also knew that waiting to make a decision whether to call off school until 5:30 a.m. on Friday morning and to consider those absences that came in overnight would be extremely difficult for our families. With the best interests of our students in mind and concerned that we could not assure their safety and provide adequate supervision, we decided to cancel school on Friday at 9:45 p.m. the night before. In summary, because I've given you a lot of data here, the decision was made primarily because of the unusual volume of teacher absences that came in during Thursday evening before 9:45 p.m., concern about an unknown number of additional absences being added from 10 o'clock p.m. to 5:30 a.m., a teacher substitute fill rate only at 50%, and the substitute calling system had exhausted most of the names of our subs. Concern about our capacity to adequately handle the high school student walkout on Friday, an extreme difficulty for our families to handle childcare if we delayed the decision until the morning. The district is taking the February 18th school closure very seriously, and we're currently conducting an investigation of employee conduct associated with it. With the number of individuals involved, that investigation will take some time. The Board of Education will take action to determine discipline for individual employees once the investigation is completed. Unless the investigation reveals a need for a more extensive investigation, board action on discipline is anticipated in April. And those are my comments, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Mary. And with that, I will turn it over to Mick Waldsberger.
Good evening. My name is Mick Waldsberger, and I'm an attorney who represents the school board. And tonight I'll be serving as a facilitator for the listening session. On behalf of the school board, I'd like to welcome you to the listening session and to lay out some of the ground rules that we'll be following for the listening session here tonight. At the entrance, you'll find that there are copies of the agenda for the meeting, as well as a request to speak to the board forms. If you'd like to speak to the board during this listening session, please complete a request to speak to the board form and then submit that. The form must include your name, address, and the school that your child currently attends, if any. If you desire to make comments or to ask questions, you must come up to the microphone and restate again your first and last name, your address, and the school your child currently attends, if any. Then you need to wait to be recognized. Once I have recognized you, you may proceed to begin with your comments. It's important to understand the purpose of this listening session. The purpose here this evening is to gather input from you as community members in regard to one issue, the school closure that occurred on February 18th. I want to emphasize that this is not a traditional open comment type of session where you come and speak on any issue as you see fit. Rather, this is a listening session that is specific to an agenda item, and the agenda item, again, is the closure that occurred on February 18th. So this is not the time or place to come to air views or to state your opinions on a variety of other types of topics, such as the pros and cons of the budget repair bill. During the listening session, board members and administrators will listen to you and will consider the input that you offer, but they will not be responding to questions or answering questions or providing statements back to you during this listening session. It's just an opportunity for you to be heard, for the board to gather that information and to consider it. We have a pretty good sized number of people here tonight, and in recognition of that and an attempt to give everybody a fair opportunity to speak while getting us out of here at some kind of reasonable time tonight, there will be a 3-minute time limit placed on each person's presentation. When you speak, there are some rules that apply to speaking, and those are on the back of your form here, the request to speak to the board form. And I'm just going to run through those quickly with you. Of course, everybody here is expected to demonstrate respect and courtesy, and we would all do that in any event. We all need to be tolerant of each other's views and maintain appropriate decorum and self-control. I want to go through the other rules as well. Only one person may speak at a time. In addition, speakers must direct their comments to the board as a whole and not to individual members of the board or to individual members of the administration. Speakers are encouraged to put any kind of personnel concerns that you might have related to the school closure in writing and deliver them to the superintendent so that they can be properly considered by the appropriate administrator or committee and addressed in compliance with the open meeting law. Speakers must refrain from making demeaning comments, personal attacks, and other comments that could have a substantial adverse effect on the reputation of a student, a parent, an employee, any other community member or person. We're going to conduct this certainly with all the civility possible. Speakers may not use loud, profane, abusive, indecent, threatening, or lewd kinds of words or actions, and may not refuse to recognize me as the facilitator if I seek to stop some conduct that is occurring. Again, if I interrupt you, you need to stop your presentation, and I will seek not to interrupt you unless it's absolutely necessary. By the same token, speakers are asked not to interrupt me or the board if any board member does speak, and anyone who persists in violating the rules that I've laid out, unfortunately, will be asked to leave if they continue to violate them after a warning. So with that, I'd like to call our first speaker, and we do have the first speaker who is going to be Scott Ellingson, and then after that, it's a matter of people filling out the forms and coming up to the microphone, and I would encourage you to do that. So with that, Scott, I'd ask you to step forward, please.
My name is Scott Ellingson, and I live at 718 6th Street. I'm a Spanish teacher at the high school.
Scott, can we have you just step a little bit closer to the microphone?
Okay.
The people in the back are struggling to hear you.
Should I repeat? Yeah, my name is Scott Ellingson. I'm a Spanish teacher at the high school, and my address is 718 6th Street. And I've been in Hudson as a teacher now for about 21 years, and I've lived here as long as my middle son has been here, and that's now, he just turned 7 years old. His name is Jacob. He is a first grader at Willow River Elementary. And my eldest son, his name is Isaac. He's age 9. He's a third grader at Willow River Elementary. And we have a little 2.5-year-old named Benjamin that is also one of my 3 sons. My wife, Veronica, teaches at the high school physics. Okay? And I guess I'd like to start out my comments by first saying that, you know, I wear a lot of hats in this community. I am the leader of the Hudson Teachers Union. There's a more technical name for that, but for purposes tonight, I'm the leader. I'm a teacher, I'm a father, I'm a taxpayer, and again, my spouse also works the district. I think it's important that people know that. And I guess I would basically like to say that, and I wrote this more or less in the Star Observer, but I I really would like to apologize to the community for the terrible inconvenience that they experienced on February 18th. As a person whose wife was very angry with me about the whole February 18th incident, and I had 2 children that had really fun field trips planned that day, I was catching a lot of grief at home, frankly, about the events of February 18th. And in fact, that morning, my wife went to school to work, which is what she does. And so because school was closed, I was at home with my 3 sons. And I guess we did have a conversation with my eldest about everything, but I guess that's probably not as important as what else I want to say. I understand the inconvenience, and I know that with daycare especially, it's a huge pain. It's just terrible, and the last second notice and so forth is very, very tough on families. And I know for my family, when that happens, it's really tough, and tough decisions have to be made, and I really apologize for that. And I guess to the community at large, any negative feelings that are going on, I'd like to certainly apologize for that. And certainly to the school board, administrators, staff, I know that this has been a thing that we've all been dealing with, myself too. And I know that, as far as sleep and work and everything, I think we've all been affected with a lot of time. So I really apologize for that, because I think we could all better use our time for that. So many things to say, but I just know that for any teacher that may have called in, I know it was a really tough decision for them to make. But I guess obviously there was something that compelled them to do that, and I'm not going to really go into that much. But I just really ask the community to consider, what may have compelled them and all that, to have that be the first time ever that we've ever had anything like that happen. I know as a negotiator for the district, I've worked hard to have voluntary settlements. I've worked hard on referendums. Okay.
Yeah, Scott, you have just hit your 3 minutes, and so I'd ask you to finish your sentence, and then you need to be concluded.
I just want to say that I think I've been a positive influence on the community. I'm very sorry for the events of February 18th, and I hope that you will find it in your hearts to forgive me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. If we'd have our next speaker who would submit their form and come to the microphone, please. Yes, please. You can see we do have a timing system up here, so if you want to watch the lights, when the yellow light is on solid, that means we have 1 minute left, and then the red. So we didn't start it quite on time with Scott. We'll try to get it going right here with you. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, board members. Closer
I'm sorry,
yet?
Ro. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Roy Schoberg. I live at 1108 Vine Street. I had 2 boys that are now full grown, but they both went from kindergarten right through 12th grade, and they had a wonderful experience at our school. And it's because of that, my debt and gratitude to the fine teachers of this school, that I come here tonight to speak in support of those who found it necessary to do an extreme measure, something that they have never done before, but were required under these circumstances to do, and that was to take an action that caused difficulties for many. But I'd like to begin my remarks by saying this, and that is, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. We've had an extreme winter. We've had an extreme event. The event that has occurred in Madison, Wisconsin has shocked the world. The actions of our governor are so extreme that they're making the papers.
I need to remind you that the comments need to be germane specifically to the school closure, please.
And I'm trying to offer a reason why they acted as they did. And so it's because of the extreme events that, because of all of that, the emotions, the fear for the jobs, that when the day came, do I go into to work that day or not, what are you going to do? Something terrific, horrific has just happened. It's created fear and doubt. Would I have done the same thing? Other union people in the past have given their lives for worker rights. Because of these extreme measures, my own Methodist church, the bishop of the Methodist church, has written a letter to the governor. So this is not just your ordinary thing. This hasn't ever happened before in this school district. This is a one-time event, and I would ask that the school board consider the extreme nature of this whole thing and grant its pardon to those who had to act according to their wishes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If we could have our next speaker submit their form and come to the microphone, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we have our next form. If you come up to the microphone, Jill Tamman, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I'm Jill Tamman, and I will soon be retiring after teaching the children of Hudson for 36 years. Incidentally, I currently have 118 unused sick days to my credit, which is over the limit that you can have. I've dedicated my professional life to inspiring children, challenging them intellectually, and being available to them emotionally. I'm proud to stand beside outstanding educators, humanitarians, and community members. I've dedicated myself to the children of Hudson because I'm a flaming optimist and believe vehemently in the ideals of public education. I find young adults amazing, whereas a lot of adults find them scary. I cherish my time with my students and look forward to the classroom every day. And I didn't decide to retire because of any national or state budget issues. I am glad to say I made my decision before this happened. However, the past 2 weeks, I've been under astonishing emotional stress that has manifested in poor diet, lack of exercise, I'm not sleeping, and I was totally unprepared for this. I expected my last semester of teaching to go the way previous ones had. I didn't expect it to be so fraught with stress. And I would talk about the causes of this stress, but I understand we can't talk about the real issues tonight. So I believe I'm grieving for your children. I understand the grief process. I know this makes no sense when apparently many in Hudson believe that we should conduct business as usual and pretend that the education of their children is not in jeopardy. Many of the issues will not even affect me because of my upcoming retirement. I'm not in the budget process for next year. I know I should let them go, but my grief is real and I cannot stand mute. Critics tell me that teachers have partly caused the problem we face. I do not believe them. Teachers are advocates for children. We cherish them and speak for them. Don't punish us for that. Please know that I am one of many. We only protest the dark future presented to us because we believe your children deserve more and that their futures are being sacrificed for political grandstanding. We love your children and stand for them. Please stand with us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is David Kivy, please. And just to remind you to state your first and last name, address, and the school, if any, where your child currently attends. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Dave Kivy. I live at 880 Willow Ridge 1.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Sure. My wife, Jill, is an educational assistant at Willow River Elementary. It's hard to follow that speech. Regarding the unscheduled school closure day, I'd like to sort of echo what Scott said, that I do empathize with the with arranging daycare, using your leave at work to kind of in an impromptu manner the extra expense you might have to incur for daycare. Now I have three kids that have graduated from Hudson, so I guess that makes 36 years cumulative. I'd like to say, there's an implicit trust I have put into the school district and school district community as a whole. That includes bus drivers, janitors, teachers, school board, school administrators, parents, volunteer parents, support staff, nurses, trainers, coaches. There's always this implicit trust that whoever my kids are with, they're my surrogate parent of my kids. And results, yeah, we want results. They all had good ACT scores. One son had a perfect math ACT score. One got a fellowship, undergraduate fellowship, for his writing. The professor asked, "Where did you learn to write like that?" Assuming it was a private school. They all graduated, or nearly graduated, from the UW and UW Stout. I'd say together, as a group, we did it. They participated in sports, had quite a bit of success, by the way. I really want to thank the community, including everybody for and against this matter. We don't always have to agree on everything, but in my eyes, together we reached and attained outstanding outcomes.
Thank you, Mr. Kivy. If you could just finish up your sentence,
I'll
I'd
finish
appreciate
up
that.
really quick. I just want to say, in the sort of the Britney Spears and Justin Bieber world, I think it's time to appreciate our boss, our parents, the people we disagree with, our coaches, our teachers, not because we gain from it, but because it's right. I guess I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Joe Kruger, please.
Hello, my name is Joe Kruger. I live at 757 Garrity Lane, and I've lived in Hudson for 24 years. I don't have kids in school anymore, but I'm here to strongly support the teachers in our community. I have to read this because I get nervous. So, we are so fortunate to have dedicated, talented people who truly care about our children. I have witnessed this while raising our 3 children here and volunteering during their school years. When I meet people from other areas, they almost always say, "Oh, you're from Hudson. What a great place to live, and you have such good schools." Yes, we do. Right now, this fact is being seriously threatened. I ask you to think about a scenario. You get a phone call. Someone says, "Hey, there's a bill being proposed by the governor, and your pay and benefits are going to be cut quite a bit. And you might lose the right to collectively bargain forever. And this will happen by the following Friday." Wow. I'm sure this would blow your mind. It would mine. This is what happened to our teachers and public workers on February 17th, around that time, a couple of weeks ago. What would you do? Well, when many of them realized the huge significance of what this would do to their future and the future of their students, they traveled to Madison on that day when a very significant vote was going to take place that would change everything for our public workers and teachers. And they barely had time to grasp what was happening at that point. I'm sure there were parents and citizens here that called in to complain. I know that we have about 4,000 students in the school district, and I can't believe that there were that many calls complaining compared to the amount of students that we have in families. I'm kind of doubting that there were a lot of them. Maybe I'm wrong. I have a strong sense that it was a low number. These teachers deserve our thanks for being brave enough to stand up for their rights. They're students and the future of our wonderful area. I certainly hope that the school board and the school department will not be hard on them. I think they were trying to do the right thing for everyone. I do know that with no way of bargaining for their rights, we would not have the quality in education and services we
I do need
enjoy
you to
here
make
in
sure that your
Hudson.
comments remain germane specifically to the school closure. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say one little tidbit here. My husband and I went to an informational meeting down at University at River Falls early in the first week. And we wanted to learn what was going on. And there was some people there that spoke. And we were surprised to see quite a few people, about maybe 250 or so people were there. They had some speakers at the end of the time. They had questions from the audience. And after the questions were, tossed around for a while and people were speaking, one young man, an education student, raised his hand and asked, "Should I change my major?" I hope you'll think about that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker this evening is Greg Sarno.
Good evening. My name is Greg Sarno. I live at 668 Heritage Way. That's in the town of Hudson. I have a class of 2009 graduate to my name, as well as a current high school senior. And unfortunately, I don't believe I'm going to get a round of applause, so please bear with me. Regarding the recent and continuing actions by some teachers and other union supporters, I am reminded of my own children when they were much younger. When I said it was bedtime, the usual response was, "I don't want to." Many times, even after an explanation of why they needed to go to bed, there was still an embarrassing display of temper and juvenile behavior by my children. This behavior was disappointing, but it was not unexpected. Similarly, the current behavior of many union supporters here in Hudson is also disappointing, but it is unexpected. It is also very unbecoming. I ask that the teachers and the other union supporters act like the professionals that you are. Given that, I would like to recommend to the board that those teachers that illegally called in sick on February 28th be docked a day's pay. I also ask that the board fine each one of those teachers and employees that called in sick one additional day's pay so they can appreciate the hardship and the additional expenses that was forced upon the Hudson families that day. And third, I ask that a letter of reprimand signed by the superintendent and all the board members be placed in those teachers' files. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker this evening is Peg Audley.
Hi, my name is Peg Audley. I live at 1221 County Road I.
A little closer to the microphone, Peg. Thank you.
Peg Audley, 1221 County Road I. I've been a resident of the Hudson School District for 21 years. My daughter Tess spent her entire student career here in the Hudson schools. I've been active in the district throughout her career, and I've witnessed firsthand the dedication and hard work of our faculty at every level. That we're having a discussion around how to discipline the teachers who exercise the right to be heard in Madison on February 18th disturbs me. These are unprecedented times. Our teachers represented the voice of democracy, a lesson that families need to discuss with their children, how the democratic process can and should work in this state. The teachers acted recently not only for their interests, but for the interests of all of us who still believe in fairness and democracy. Demonizing or punishing the teachers for exercising their rights and for defending the interests of all of us is an unjustified response. So I'm asking the board, do not add insult to injury by pushing for anything more than possibly to make up the sick day for our dedicated teachers during your deliberation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker this evening is Dolly Isabel Qualls. And I apologize if I mispronounced the last name.
Oh, you did a good job.
Thank
Like
you.
I used to tell the kids I don't creep by qualls.
Come up nice and close to the microphone, please.
Okay, my name is Dolly Qualls.
Even a little bit closer, please.
More?
Yep, there you go.
Right there. Okay. My name is Dolly Qualls, and I live on Highway 12. I've been a taxpayer of the district, and I've been a teacher here for 36 years, but I've been retired for 13. I started my teaching in 1962, and it was the absolute highlight of my life because I always wanted to be a school teacher. Today I want to share some insights that I gathered about some of those student and parent issues over the years, and I know, this is kind of long ago, but it still works. But anyhow, many of those people are still some of the most fantastic people that I could ever imagine having in my life. However, I did have some issues that were bothersome to me, and I think those need to be addressed. There are many times students were absent when I was in the classroom, but they were there for very valid reasons. They were there for hunting trips, they were there for homecoming events, they were babysitting family members, and so on. However, many times when those children came back to school, they had a slip for some kind of an excuse. And many times then after they got back, they would simply say, oh, we went here, we went there. And I'm thinking, well, everybody's human. They screw up once in a while, and I guess it's just point blank how it is. Anyhow, but it was the monkey on my back to see that appropriate work was given. And oftentimes upon the student's return, many times the student would say, well, did I really miss anything? That broke my heart. And a lot of things break my heart, and I've always been for kids. Teaching is a very stressful occupation, even way back when I started in '62, and it's getting more so all the time. I did a little research, and I wanted to see what Mayo had to say about stress and body and mind. And their statement is when one's mind and body are under stress, one may face serious health problems. People in business are called rainmakers. It's important to remember that there are those people who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who simply say, what happened? Either you stand for something or you stand for nothing. Teachers stand for kids and their future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Kathy Leaf.
Good evening. Can you all hear me in the back? All right. I'm Kathy Leaf. I live at 1016 Willow River Road North in Hudson. I am the proud parent of a second grader who is receiving an exceptional education at North Hudson Elementary. And it's because of this education and the quality of our teachers that I stand in support of their decision to exercise their right to protest on February 18th. And I can't speak highly enough of the teachers that we have, and I just want you to understand that these are unprecedented times, as others have said. And when I explained to my son why it was that school was closed, and he said, well, I'm going to miss the all-school dance. I said, well, you know what? We can do that another day because the teachers are standing up for their rights. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Liz Malanafi.
Before I start speaking, I'm just going to hand you guys these petitions, copies of an online petition that I had started. And I'm also going to give one to the guys out in the hall real quick because I know they probably want to see it too. I'm Liz Malanafi. I live in Hudson, 1331 3rd Street. I have 5 children. 2 are through the high school, 2 are in middle school, and I have a first grader. I simply put together an online petition on a website called petitionsite.org, and it has 96 signatures right now, and it's still open. I'm just going to read what it says, really simply. It says, regardless of political affiliation, we, the undersigned, support the teachers of Hudson in all their efforts to be heard by our state government in Madison. We recognize our teachers' efforts to assure that conversation, collaboration, communication Open-mindedness and understanding are part of their classrooms every day and are also integral to the decisions made regarding budget issues in the state of Wisconsin. We understand why they took action to demand that the adults who are making decisions for our state do so with a bipartisan fair agenda as well, arrived at only after conversation with representation by all affected. To do any less is to jeopardize the future of education in our state and thereby threatens the very children our teachers work so hard to serve. In standing up and asking our elected officials to act responsibly and carefully, we agree that our educators best represented the students in Hudson and parents of Hudson, and indeed we would have expected no less of them. And in support of that, I just want to point to signature number 90. And I'll read this because these guys out here don't have it, a copy of this, but some hard data. Only 5 states do not have collective bargaining for educators and have deemed it illegal. Those states and
I
their
need you to make sure your comments remain germane to the school closure, please, and not to political issues related to the budget
I
bill.
believe this is germane because I believe
it needs
that
to be directly germane to the school closure, please.
the teachers went to Madison because they recognize that the educational system in Wisconsin is in jeopardy.
You've made that point, but to discuss the bill itself or the pros and cons is out of bounds. Please
No, this
remain
is just a
germane
fact. This is
directly
just a
to
fact.
the closure, please.
Okay, basically, I think the teachers understand and have seen the statistics that say that states that don't have collective bargaining are the 50th, 49th, 48th, 47th, and 44th lowest states on their ACT and SAT scores. In addition, it is a human right affirmed by the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights to collectively bargain.
Okay, now we are far afield. Please bring it back directly to the school closure. Or otherwise, I'll ask you
know
to
what?
please
In
sit down.
short, I don't think we can ask our teachers, who are so incredibly passionate about our children, to separate that passion for the children from passion for the educational system itself. They have to have passion for both, or they have to believe in it, or they wouldn't, do what they do. So that's my opinion.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Lois Adornado. I have it wrong. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to get directly to the. I'm sorry. My name is Lou Adornado. I live on 750 10th Street North in North Hudson. I have 3 children who went through the parochial system in this town because I didn't want to expose them to the union teachers. And every interface with the public system that we had in the 8 years, 10 years that we had them in school here was a complete disaster. I'm going to ask a simple question. Was this an illegal strike action or not? And if it was, the teachers took action against the taxpayers and the parents in this town and used our children against us as weapons. Regardless of the pious pronouncements, that's exactly what they did. And I just want to point out that a doctor's note in this instance is not an excuse because doctors were handing out fake notes in Madison. I believe that the pronouncements that this has never happened before and we're terribly sorry are not enough. Anyone who's taken 5 years worth of child education classes should know that a child will do what they think they can get away with, which is what the teachers did. And the child will keep doing it if they keep getting away with it. I think serious action is taken, and I think a WEA whitewash in this matter is not sufficient. I would like to see every teacher who participated in this illegal action be fired and lose their pension. And I will start a petition to ask for the same. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. The next speaker is Joseph Lowry, please.
Yes, hi. My name is Joseph Lowry. I live at 1612 Laurel, Hudson, Wisconsin. I have 2 kids at the Hudson Middle School.
Get real close, right up to it.
Okay,
please.
is that better? I just have two quick comments about about what went on last week. One, I'm curious if the school board has generated an idea or a plan how to prevent this from happening again. So there's not some monopoly walking out and closing the schools down. The second thing was I heard something over here. It's a tough decision to stay home by the union rep. It's a tough decision to pay taxes too, and I'm curious what the school board, how the school board is going to handle all the incidents of the teachers making political statements during school time. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Nora, and I'm going to apologize in advance, Jankowski. And I would remind everyone, please, to refrain from making any comments while speakers are speaking. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nora Jankowski, and I live at 1059 Tanny Lane in Hudson, and I've been a resident for 13 years in Hudson. My husband and I are here to show support for the teachers and their choices that they made. We think that this was actually a tremendous opportunity to talk to our children about democracy and how important it is for people and groups to share and actually participate in it. And this is something that our teachers did, and I feel that it was a very teachable moment. Whether or not you agreed with it or not, this is actually how democracy works, and what better example it is to experience it than just to read about it in a textbook somewhere. I think that this was an issue that we should take advantage of with our children. And having watched the news in days prior leading up to it, we were well aware, we were prepared. This wasn't something that was shocking to us on Thursday night when we got a phone call. We had preparations made for daycare, so I don't feel like it was some tremendous inconvenience. It was one day. It wasn't like we were down in Madison, and it was multiple days in a row. And I think that it made its point, and we took advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. And our next speaker is Mark Hayes.
Hi, my name is Mark Hayes, and I live at 520 Boundary Road, Hudson, Wisconsin, and I'm an 11th grader at Hudson High School. And I would just like to say that in our schools, we've always been taught to stand up for what we believe in, and for having the idea to punish teachers for doing that very thing is going against everything that teachers and our society has ever taught us. And doing so would be wrong to our teachers and almost wrong to our students. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for the comments. Our next speaker this evening is Benjamin Peters.
Hello, my name is Ben Peters. I live at 470 North Glover Road, Hudson, Wisconsin. I am a senior at the Hudson High School. This is my last semester. I have attended the high school all 4 years. I first would like to say I accept the apology from Mr. Ellingson on behalf of the teachers. I think it was a very respectable thing of him to say, and I accept the apology. On the other hand, I believe our school has a large amount of superb teachers, and I find that the actions taken on the 18th were inexcusable. The abuse of a sick day is just not right. There are many teachers who oppose this act of defiance, and we are not allowed to speak with our teachers about specific political ideologies and factors, but many teachers thought it was irresponsible to deprive us of a day of education. I believe that many teachers are part of their profession is to educate, and for us to be deprived of that one day, I just find inexcusable. I've witnessed several reactions among other students in our school, and some are in awe and respect our teachers for the action that they took. Others are of complete disgust. There's utter separation in our school at the moment, whether it's between students or teachers. I respect our teachers' actions, but though I do not agree with them, I feel that no wrong action should go unpunished. I I've had several conversations with my father, who's been a member of the Carpenters Union for 21 years, and if this action would have taken place in his workplace, all members would have been fired. I am not suggesting that our teachers should be fired. I feel that they have done too good of a job to have that action take place. But I do feel that there should be repercussions for this insolent action, and there's a time and place for it, and this certainly was not it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Zach Hellman, please.
Hi, my name is Zach Hellman. I'm a senior at Hudson High School, and I live at 1132 Juniper Way in Hudson, Wisconsin. First, I'd like to state my understanding of the teacher's right to protest. That's a right that everyone in America has, but I do also not agree with the fact that they used it on a Friday. They used it on a school day. We have Saturdays and Sundays off. We have weekends. If you want to protest, you can do it on your own time. In addition to that, I'd like to say that when things like this happen, there will obviously be a need for protest, a need to express your views, and I respect their views. They can respect mine. They can definitely be different, but I'd like that to take place because I think a lot of teachers, although not allowed to express their ideologies, there's little undercuts going back and forth. In addition to that, if teachers are in the education department for pay, benefits, and ultimately to teach our kids, why did they leave the very thing that they deem so important? They value education, they value teaching kids, so why not do it on a Saturday or Sunday? So I would encourage you to inform teachers of the paradox of their actions, taking a day off of school to protest something that they really think is so important. And in addition to that, I would like the school board to allow the students of Hudson High School and I guess the school district in general to make up this day. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is, I believe that's John Arthur.
John Arthur, 2513 Burl Oak Curve. I have 3 children in the system. I just wanted to say that I think out of respect for everybody, it is very important that the tone of the board be not punitive, not be discussing punishment, that the tone of the board be respectful, whether there's disagreement or not. 1/3 or more of the teachers, the employees of the schools, have a particular view. They obviously feel very strongly about that. And I think that the tone that the board has set up, talking about punishment, talking about action, talking about discipline, is destructive. I think it's unprofessional. I think it is demeaning to the teachers and sets a bad example for children, because you are, frankly, treating your teachers as if they are children by the very language you're using. I'd also like to address the conditions that you are putting on the board for this forum, in that, yes, I understand your need to control it and for people to be respectful, but I believe it's demeaning by the way you're presenting this and by the way you're conducting the forum. This is a national issue. This is a state issue. The teachers were reacting to very real issues that affect their paychecks and their lives. And for you to put your finger on that buzzer because you disagree with it being a national state issue is demeaning. It's an insult. I don't care if you're a lawyer or not.
Okay, your comments are now out of bounds too, sir. You need to make sure that they are germane to the school closure and not any personal attacks. Those were our ground rules. Please continue.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a national, state, and local issue, and I would ask that you respect people's free right to speech and show respect in your words, your choice of words to your employees. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Bernard.
My name is Peter Bernard. I live at 1509 Laurel Avenue, Hudson, Wisconsin. I have one son. He's 12 years old, and he is not in public schools. I'm here before you today because I consider the actions of the teachers to be a violation of the contract. And when I look at that action, actions have consequences. They chose not to go to school that day. They chose not to fulfill the contract. They chose to do something else. Actions have consequences. And I'm looking at the board, and I'm expecting the board to address this. I'm not asking the teachers to address it. The board now has a responsibility to manage or to deal with this situation that's before you. And when you take that into consideration, know that it's someone like myself who looks at the board and says, the board is the one that has to make the decision, not the teachers. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Lori Bernard.
Lori Bernard, 1509 Laurel Avenue, and actually didn't know my husband was going to speak, or I probably wouldn't have. I want to commend the students who've spoken tonight. I want to commend the parents who've spoken tonight. I can tell you that it's a very intimidating atmosphere to come into a room that is mostly teachers. I've talked to many parents who are afraid to come tonight because they don't want to speak out because of fear of repercussions for their students. And just from the snickering that I've heard and kind of the comments in the back, I understand that, and I can see why they are intimidated. We've heard tonight, please don't be punitive to the teachers. Please don't disrespect them. Please don't, talk in an unprofessional manner to them. What I would say is what happened on the Friday that schools were closed was punitive to a lot of parents in the district. It was punitive to children in the district. It was also punitive to taxpayers in the district who've paid for those schools to be opened. And I've heard people say, don't treat them like children. I have to second what my husband said. Actions have consequences. And I think when we make threats to our kids or when we suggest that there will be punitive action if something occurs and we don't follow through, we embolden that behavior. My understanding is that teachers knew ahead of time that if they were to call in sick that day, they would need proof that they were sick. If the district did that, I think it's incumbent upon you to act accordingly. And the last thing I'd like to say is I know there are some excellent teachers in the school district, and I know many of them. I know many of them who are not going to call in on Friday. In order to protect those people who are planning to fulfill their obligation to their students and to parents, I think it is obligatory for you to do something. I'm not going to suggest what that would be. You guys have good judgment. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I have no more slips in front of me indicating anyone wants to speak. If there are any other individuals who wish to speak, please bring your slip up now. Otherwise, any other members of the audience? And at this time, then, I would ask if there are any board members. You are community members as well, if you would like an opportunity to speak.
Mr. Chair, I think I would. Oh, am I on? Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, very good. And I'll try to keep to the 3 minutes as well, perhaps even less. It'd be nice if the world and the issues we're dealing with here were black and white. I I don't think the world looks like that, and I never have. And I think this is a situation that exemplifies it greatly. You know, on the one hand, I admire people who stand up for what they believe. I agree with Scott when he said it was probably very difficult for those folks to call in and take a stand for their union and what they believe is the right thing to do. As a government employee, work for the city of St. Paul, I understand the unique challenges that government employees experience, and particularly in the year 2011. The counterpoint, though, is that I really feel that our teachers had a contractual and a moral obligation to teach. I've heard a lot here about the passion and the caring for kids, but our kids got tossed under the bus on February 18th, and I don't appreciate that. And I guess a close second to the harm I think that our student community experienced is the Hudson community at large. Look at this room. I think this is very indicative of the harm that has been done. I can only hope that it won't be long lasting. And I guess I'm just going to close with hoping that everybody will take a look at both sides of the issue. There are legitimate and valid points on both. I think there is going to be some measure of discipline. I'm only speaking for myself. The board hasn't discussed this all, but just from my personal opinion, obviously we got to have something between a slap on the wrist and a public flogging. I hope we all agree that we can find some place in there. And once again, just a final appeal. Let's get through this. Let's do what we need to do. Let's put it behind us. We have a lot of serious work to do. I hope this can become a bump in the road, because it's important for our students. And I want to thank you all for attending tonight too.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any others who'd like to speak at this time?
Madam President, I would like to thank everybody that came out tonight for speaking your views. I also, I've done civil disobedience. I took the consequences. So everyone, when it's civil disobedience, there are consequences. I do hope that our community can come together and heal, because there is frustrations.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any others who would like to speak at this time?
I'd like to add some comments. Again, to echo what some of the other board members have said, thank you to the community. I have witnessed this community come together in listening sessions in the past, and tonight, like in the past, I think we do that over very difficult topics in a respectful way, and I want to acknowledge the good and hard work that went into the comments that you prepared and the way in which that you shared them. My own feelings about what has happened are mixed, frankly. I'm a strong believer in individual rights to express concern over what is happening around us. However, I have to say I'm disappointed in the fact that we were required to close our schools on February 18th. I'm disappointed that we're spending time trying to resolve what has happened, and further, we will spend time trying to heal the hurts that have been created in the community and in our schools. I believe that there were other options for our teachers to express their feelings about what is going on in the state, other than closing those schools. And most importantly, I hope that we can find ways to do the healing that needs to be done so that we can focus on the things that we have all said are the most important, what's happening in the classroom, not what's happening at the Capitol. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I don't want to draw this out because I think you've heard a lot of what the same sentiment probably is on our board tonight. First of all, let me say that I've had nothing but the most extreme admiration for our teachers. And we'll have our fourth child graduate from Hudson High School this coming year. And we'll be forever grateful for what the teachers have done for our kids in this school district. That being said, we can't ignore the fact that there was an action that took place on Friday the 18th that was inappropriate. It gave the wrong message to our students. Regardless of where you stand on the issues, this is what faces us tonight and in the future, is determining a judgment and some penalties or violations regarding this. It should be clearly understood from at least my point of view that this doesn't reflect my advocacy or lack of advocacy for the issue that's going on in the state. Finally, let me just say that I couldn't be prouder tonight of the two students that spoke from the high school. The three students, excuse me. The three students that I think represent their parents and the teachers of this district extremely well. They hit, in my opinion, the perfect balance between not condemning the teachers but condemning the action. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments? Okay, with that, it looks like we have reached the end of our listening session here. I'd like to thank you all for the input that you've offered. I believe that the board has heard each of your voices and will weigh and consider the information that you've provided going forward. I think that there was some valuable constructive criticism that was received tonight, and I know that in the end that this should and hopefully will improve the way that our schools are run in the future and hopefully help some of the healing take place that obviously needs to occur as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. We are back on the agenda for this evening, and we are on item 6, the superintendent's report, so I will turn it over to Mary.
And I'll talk first about the 2011-2012 budget reallocation and reduction update. As you know, we had previously planned this evening to bring the preliminary administrative recommendations to you. With all the changes that and events that are occurring in Madison with the budget repair bill and now the governor's biennial budget that was introduced later this afternoon, we have to delay our recommendations until we have more information about the financial impact to the Hudson School District. We've discussed this needed delay with the Finance Committee at their last meeting, and they concurred with that. So we hope to have enough information to bring a preliminary recommendations to the board in April. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them on that subject. All right, then I'll move on to the required days and hours of instruction. And I know there are people out there in the audience who would like to know about this as well. The Department of Public Instruction requires a minimum number of days and hours of instructions for students each year. And in regard to the number of days, all of our levels are in compliance. And we consider not only the February 18th, but we need to consider those days for parent-teacher conferences and those days for inclement weather. But we are in compliance in the number of days. In regard to the instructional minutes, another requirement, the middle school is an hour short of the needed time, and that needs to be made up by students and teachers. And because of the loss of instruction on February 18th, we are looking at using some or all of the 3 early release and late start times for the remainder of the year for instruction. Using this time is most convenient for our families. Students would report to school and leave at the usual time. We will be making that decision hopefully by the end of this week so that we can communicate that to both parents, staff, and as well to our students. We are also working on scheduling an additional day for teachers for professional development focused on improving instruction as a makeup day for the lost day of work. This is an extra teacher day, but it will not include students, and that's really important for people to understand. We had originally said it would be April 22nd, but we're looking at other options at the present time. And again, this is a teacher makeup day, not a student makeup day. So there's two different things. One is student and teacher time, and one is teacher makeup day that we'll be looking at. Any questions?
All right, with that, we move on to the report section of the agenda. And the first item under the report section, Sandy, you're going to share with us a state comparison of advanced placement results.
Thank you. In September, I shared our impressive district advanced placement results. The results showed a significant increase in the number of students participating in AP coursework. Once again,
Sandy, I'd just like to interrupt you for a minute, and I'm hoping that people stay for this. It's not going to be very long, but it's one of the best things tonight that we're going to talk about. So I really would like you to hear this report, and certainly it's a credit to our teachers out there.
Once again, the advanced placement program enables students to pursue college-level studies while in high school. Just recently, on February 9th, the state released some results, which allows me tonight to compare and provide you some updated information. This was both national and Wisconsin results. One of the slides that was most interesting is where they took the 10 most popular AP exams in the state of Wisconsin. So that, again, this is not all the AP exams that are offered. This is not all the AP exams that are taken by our students, but the 10 most popular AP exams. In the charts that were released, they provided us the Wisconsin results, and you can see the number of exams, but more importantly, the percent that were scoring 3 or higher. Again, there's a 5-point scale. 3, 4, 5 are in most instances considered passing, and students often then can earn college-level credit. I pulled out because the results that were released are representing the class of 2010. So the results I shared in September were a combination of any student, junior or seniors, taking the courses. And tonight I pulled out specifically the class of 2010, which then would have been last year's seniors. And you can see the number of exams as you go down the chart there. Very impressive numbers. In September, I shared that 280 students, which were juniors and seniors, took 436 exams. When we look at just our seniors, 156 students took 300 exams. And for us, the U.S. history is taught at the junior level, so 120 of those exams were just at that level, at the U.S. history. Please note the seniors, 84, 85, 91% of our students who took the exams earning a 3, 4, or 5, and several 100%. Also note that both English language composition and statistics will now be offered in the Hudson High School starting next year. Statistics is an online class at the moment. The next slide adds a little color and shows us a little bit across the state. This is looking at participation by district in the state of Wisconsin. And I know it's a little difficult, the shading there, but if you look for the dark green, that is the percent of graduating class participating in AP during high school. And the dark green is the highest that they show, 30% or greater. And you can look over there, and you can see Hudson. Even with the magnifying glass, they did not provide us details as far as numbers, but it would appear that there are about 35 to 40 districts out of the 424 districts in the state that have that green color, where 30% or greater students participated in an AP exam during high school. And the most exciting one, actually, Diane, is the next one. Here's one, once again, 30% or greater. This is performance by district. Again, looking for those hidden green. There's very few there, only probably about 13 to 15. This is showing, again, performance where students earned at least a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam during their high school experience. And Hudson's pretty much the lone soul there on the west side of the state. So this, again, is, as Mary Bowen-Egerbrotten pointed out, this shows us once again the outstanding teachers we have in the district, the outstanding students we have, and together what a team we're making to show that kind of impact. Very few districts in the state reaching that level of performance. Thank you.
And certainly we want to credit our talented AP teachers, but I would extend that all the way down to teachers at our elementary school, our administrators at elementary, our middle school teachers, and administrators, as well as everyone at the high school. It just doesn't happen once you take AP at the high school. It happens from learning all the way through the system. And I really credit our teachers who are out in the audience, and I wish there were more to hear this report because it's really impressive, the results that you've attained because of your work. So I thank you.
Next on the agenda, Tim is going to share with us the 2011-12 governor's budget and the budget repair bill impact.
Today, the Governor Walker released his biennial budget, and also, I'll talk a little bit about this. Certainly, a lot of people know a lot of the details of the bill. This is really a summary. If you're not familiar with all of the details, and there's really two parts to it. The first part is the budget repair bill, and that handles 2010-11, makes adjustments for 2010-11 in anticipation of the large aid reductions that will occur for school districts and local government. The budget repair bill, one of the first items is to require WRS covered employees to contribute 5.8% of their salary or wage on a post-tax basis. The health insurance is a piece that's been discussed a lot. How does that impact Hudson? That piece, as we know it at this point, is really for state employees and then also local government employers in the public employee group health plan. And those folks, those organizations, those local government units participating in that public employee group health plan would be prohibited from paying more than 88% of the lowest plan, 88% of the cost of the lowest plan. Again, those two examples are not applicable to Hudson because we do not participate in that plan, so it would not apply, again, as we know it at this point. Under the collective bargaining, the points there are to limit bargaining for most public employees to wages only. The wage increase could not exceed a cap based on CPI unless it was referendum approved. Contracts would be limited to 1 year in duration. Collective bargaining units would be required to vote annually to maintain certification as a union, and employers would be prohibited from collecting union dues. Members would not be required to pay dues under that plan. So those cover the pieces of the budget repair bill. The next part, the 2011-2013 biennial budget, again, that was released today. In the coming days and weeks ahead, there will be more analysis, more information coming out from the Department of Public Instruction as to just how this impacts each district, because it will have a different impact, most likely, for every district. And I've drawn an example of 2 years ago when the state cut aids to public education by 3%. That translated into an over 10% reduction in state aid for Hudson. Other districts went down even more, and some districts went up. So there's a lot of variation in the formula, and depending on how that formula is adjusted, that's really going to determine the effect of these cuts. What we have so far is that the proposed budget is looking at about anywhere from $900 to $1 billion cut from schools over the next 2 years. Again, equating that to a per student amount that could be converted into maybe $500 per student. Again, the details are not exactly clear until we have some time to work through this and the analysis is done. We do know that the reductions are going to be really historic. I don't think school districts have ever seen these types of reductions before. We're estimating impact could be about $3 million on up. We don't know what that upper limit will be at this point. Again, it depends on how the reductions are incorporated into the funding formula, and that then has to be applied to every individual school district in the state to determine how that impacts them. Over the last 3 years, the district has made reductions and reallocations to its budget of approximately a little over $3 million. And if you remember, by board action, you did hold the levy at a 0 increase for last year. So that's the summary of the points on the budget repair bill and the 2011-13 biennial budget.
Any questions for Tim? Not a lot of detail yet.
Right.
All right. Thanks. Tim.
You know, as one of the lowest spending districts in the state of Wisconsin, the kind of reductions that we're talking are very, very significant. And we don't know what exactly those will be and in what form they will come. But it certainly will be very significant to this district, and it'll take a lot of work to figure out how to manage through those reductions that we can anticipate.
And Tim, it looks like you're going to share with us the energy savings.
I am, yes. As part of our efforts to reduce energy usage throughout the district, back in October of 2008, we entered into an agreement with CISA 11 to provide some energy management services. And to date, our energy management savings have been pretty significant. If you look at our savings garnered from June through November of 2010, we've saved about $55,000 in combined gas and electric savings. If you look at gross energy savings to date, since we started this project in October of 2008, we've saved about $289,000. We've done a number of different things in the district to save those dollars. Looking at, for example, HVAC systems, motion detectors for lighting. We've upgraded a lot of our lighting to reduce energy usage. We've staggered boiler sequencing. This gets into some technical, certainly some technical things on the HVAC side. We've improved chiller efficiencies, and we pre-cool spaces. We try to we're on a peak demand, so we get charged extra from the utility companies as a major user of energy. And so a lot of focus has been on reducing that peak demand, and that's how we drive down our energy costs. We've also replaced inefficient water heaters. When we do roofing projects, we're increasing the insulation in our buildings, all in an effort to drive down those energy costs, and it really has been working. I just want to thank Jim Staskell and all of our facilities and ground staff, because they're really instrumental in getting these energy savings. And I also want to thank all of our staff for turning out lights, turning off computers, closing blinds. Everybody working together has made this savings possible. So it's just been a very good program, and I just want to thank everybody for the cooperation in that.
Thank you, Tim. We are now moving into topics for action. The first item is the 2011-12 open enrollment applications. Nancy, you'll walk us through those.
Okay. In your board material, you have a copy of the Board of Education policy governing open enrollment, and you also have 2 additional documents, one detailing the requests into the district and the recommendations of the administration as to whether you would approve or deny those applications. And the third document that you have in your material is a list of the applications out of the district. As you know, the open enrollment process is governed by state law. There's a particular window of time that people apply to come into the district or to go out, and there's a particular deadlines in the law that require the district's response to those requests. So they're tightly governed. There's very little discretion associated with the statute, and there are criteria in the statute that must be considered by the board in their approval or denial of these requests. Essentially, the criteria have to do with space. They have to do with grade level space, and we look at our our guidelines, and also have to do with programs, often special programs, and whether, again, there is space in those programs. And all of our buildings also have capacities. So the big essential criteria is space available. And that would be applied to those requests in. Now, in order to derive our particular recommendations, we look at our current enrollment, and we also have had the advantage this year of the December 2010 demographic study completed by Hazel Reinhardt, an expert demographer. So we could look at projections as well as current enrollment and moving those numbers forward. Relative to the requests into the district, and these would be non-residents and parents of children requesting in at particular grade levels. This year, for this period of time, there are 33 requests, and you'll see in your board material our recommendation for approval of 23 of the 33 and denial of the 10. At the secondary level, where you know that our space is most limited and most challenged at the middle school and also at the high school, you will see in the documentation that we have applied the criteria of recommending entry to those that are currently enrolled under open enrollment or currently enrolled under a tuition waiver and or with siblings already in the system. So we've confined, for the most part, our recommendation to admit students who are already here and in almost all cases have siblings also in the system. At the elementary level, our kindergarten class moving to first grade next year is the biggest class in the entire system, and we are not recommending any first grade entrance from out of the district at that level. And then you'll see some variation as to where we feel we have space or do not have space. So we would recommend that you approve 23 of the 23 of the 33 in. If you move to the out, there are 38 requests out, and 33 of the 38 are actually requesting virtual school enrollment. 33 of the 38. We've seen that that pattern develop over the last several years now. And this year is no exception. And for the most part, the requests out are students who are not currently enrolled, actually, in our schools. They are either homeschooled or private schooled or have moved here and haven't yet entered the school. But that's kind of the profile that we're continuing to see. We are recommending, and again, following the guidelines and the criteria put forth, we are recommending that you approve all 38 of those requests out. In your at your spaces, there is a possible agenda, a possible motion, I guess, a possible motion that you could make. But I'd be happy to entertain questions. And our legal counsel is here. The policy was revised and approved by you last year, so it's new and has some new provisions in it. And he could certainly speak to your questions as well, and better than I could.
Nancy, before I do that, we do have one citizen's request to speak on this topic. So at this time, I'd like to invite Mike Brose forward. Mike, if you could state your name, address, and then share with the board, that would be wonderful.
My name is Mike Brose. I live at 1332 89th Street in New Richmond. And if I read what was on the board correctly, the previous screen, and if I understood what Ms. Sweet was suggesting or recommending, I think that the recommendation is that our non-resident applicant student is being requested for admission, and of course we endorse that, and so I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, are there questions for Nancy on the recommendation from the administration, or more specific questions that we would want Mick to answer? No. Then if we are ready to make a motion, if someone could use the language of the motion that is attached to the back of the agenda.
Me. I would move to approve the application of student numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 for open enrollment into the Hudson School District.
Motion by Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lynn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we would need a second motion on the application. No, that's the applications out of the district, correct? Oh, we do. Okay.
Denial.
So we do need a motion on the specific denials, if someone would be willing to make that motion.
Madam President, I move to deny the applications of students numbers 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 26, and 33 for open enrollment into the Hudson School District for the reasons specified in the document associated with this agenda item.
So we have a motion by Lynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And finally, the motion on the open enrollment applications out of the Hudson District.
Madam President? Okay, I'll read this one. Okay. I make a motion to, I move to approve the applications of student numbers 1 through 38 for open enrollment out of the Hudson School District.
Okay, there's a motion by Pat.
Second.
Second by Lynn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. The next item on our in the topics for action section of our agenda is the memorandum of agreement extension of retirement notification to March 25th. Nancy.
This memorandum of agreement between the School District of Hudson and the West Central Education Association would extend the timeline which exists currently in the contract for the application for early retirement from February 1st, which is passed, and you've acted on a number of retirements in February, to March 25th. The teachers who would be eligible, and actually other employees in the district, would be either 55 years of age with 30 years of experience in the district, or 57 years of age with 15 years of service to the Hudson School District. So those are the populations that we're talking about. The agreement that we would recommend that you approve tonight is specific to the contract with the teachers, but we are asking you to approve an extension of the timeline for all of the employee groups in the school district. The benefit to the employee is the option to retire under the terms of the current agreements, several agreements actually. And the benefits to the district are, at least in some cases, there could be a cost savings, and more importantly, in these uncertain times with looking forward, it would provide the district with a greater degree of flexibility to consider the positions in the future. So there's a benefit, we feel, to all parties involved, and we are asking you to approve this memorandum of agreement, which is a legally drawn-up document, and to further extend this same opportunity to all certified and non-certified employees in the district to March 25th. And then you would act upon these retirements in April at your regular meeting.
All right, are there questions for Nancy? No? Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented by the administration.
All right, motion by Lynn.
Second.
Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nancy, memorandum of agreement on non-renewal / layoff.
Okay. This memorandum of agreement is also between the School District of Hudson and the West Central Education Association, and the West Central Education Association have already signed this agreement, as they did the previous one. This is a mutual agreement to implement the terms and the May 1st timeline for layoffs that are current in the agreement. This is not a recommendation to change anything in the agreement that exists currently, but it is a mutual agreement to just implement the terms that exist in the contract. For lack of this agreement, the district would have needed or would need to lay off now an indeterminate number of teachers due to the uncertainty of the governor's budget repair bill. But with this agreement, the district will have more information, will have more time to consider more carefully any layoffs that might be necessary in the future. And so that's what this particular agreement is about.
Any questions for Nancy on this agreement?
Just one question, Madam Chair. Nancy, there's no changes in the actual language of the agreement?
Not a word. And Mick is here, who actually drew this up, and maybe he could speak a little bit further to it if I'm missing something.
Yeah. Some of the statutes that underpin the authority of the district and the union to have negotiated language that's currently in the contract has been proposed for repeal. And as a result of that, there is some uncertainty in terms of interpretation of the current contract language. And what this memorandum of agreement, or MOA, does is it solidifies that both parties are of the same mind, despite or notwithstanding the repeal of statutes, that this language would remain in effect, such that if we went down the road and had to implement those layoffs, rather than doing mass non-renewals like some other districts are being forced to do, if we ultimately do have to do layoffs, we have a higher degree of confidence that we'll be able to rely on that. We know that the union is of the same mind that we are, that we have that authority, even if those statutes don't exist. And we're not going to have that kind of challenge or concern about going to arbitration and having an arbitrator disagree, because we know we've got a written document that says, again, even if those statutes aren't there, this is legal and binding, at least for the current term of the contract.
Mm-hmm. Which expires June 30th, 2011.
Therein, I think, lies my question is, first of all, I hope that we don't do any layoffs, right? But my question is, the terms of this actual agreement, although it hasn't changed, I'm challenges with some of the terms in this agreement have always been challenged, especially with if we had to do a layoff that's based on seniority versus other metrics impacting the classroom and things like that. So I've never been a favor of this of the terms on this contract that have been negotiated. I'm just wondering if by voting on it, am I putting myself in a situation where if this contract was changed, that now we're still binded by it?
No, I don't believe you're going to be bound by this until the end of this contract term, but you'd be bound by the contract anyway. Without this MOA, you would have to propose an indeterminate number of teachers for non-renewal now in order to safeguard against the possibility of massive impacts from the budget, and that has a terrible effect on morale, of course. And I just want to speak to another issue, too. There is a very common misunderstanding that if we didn't have this kind of any kind of a layoff clause, we could just say, okay, we're going to lay off whoever we want. But the problem is that without a layoff clause, because of the way the Wisconsin statutes are, you would then get kicked back into the non-renewal statute and have to follow that, at least arguably. That's the concern that we'd have. We'd have to follow that to then end the employment of an employee simply for financial reasons, even though, again, it's not a performance-based, but just simply for financial reasons. And one of the reasons why that's a real concern for us is the timeline, as you know, for non-renewal. Preliminary notice of consideration of non-renewals before the end of February and then by March 15th. So here we would be sitting not knowing, having any idea what our real financial impact is, and we'd have to, again, do those mass non-renewals, terrible effect on morale. You don't want to do it. We all hope that there's none, but we don't know what the impact's going to be right now. So I think that this really is the best case scenario given the uncertainty that we face right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the memorandum of agreement, non-renewal and layoff as presented.
Motion by Lynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are at the consent items in the agenda. If there is someone that would make the motion and include the dollar amount as the authorization to pay.
Madam Chair, move to approve the consent items, including that the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $1,798,272.22.
All right, motion by Brian. Is there a second? Second by Dan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. First item on committee reports is a Finance Committee. Brian.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on February 21st. We covered 4 topics. The first was just an update on the audit. Excuse me for my voice, by the way. And we had a few minor findings that we talked about, some correction in terms of that we're going to work with on with our auditors in terms of maybe kind of a pre-assessment. There was a few items that bookkeeping items that would have helped if we did it earlier, and then we evaluated us doing our own financial reporting. It just seemed like, and that was a finding. It just seemed like the cost of doing that versus the benefit. It didn't make a good business kind of a business justification. So we talked about that. Any questions on that topic? Then we talked about the budget reduction reallocation update. We passed on that topic since we don't have enough data points yet. Debt reservicing, we may have the ability to do some debt reservicing and look at some of the issues that are coming up, but we may be able to refinance with these lower interest rates. We're kind of waiting to get a little bigger picture on some of the other items before we bring that to the full board, but it's something that we could do and potentially save the district some money in terms of debt payments. So that will be something that we'll talk about in the upcoming few months. And finally, we had a brief discussion on the governor's budget repair bill, and that's already been covered tonight.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? If not, Personnel Committee. Mark.
Thank you, Madam President. The Personnel Committee met last Tuesday. We had 4 items on our agenda. The first, we had a report from Sandy Kovach with making some recommendations as far as modification in the literacy support staff, which the committee did endorse. We also had a report from Tim Erickson on the budget reduction and reallocation, which also covered extensively earlier, as well as Ms. Sweet presenting the information that we voted on earlier, but the extension of the retirement deadline for certified and non-certified employees. And lastly, a closed session covering the topics of non-renewal of specific teachers, negotiation strategy with union groups, and consideration of discipline of specific employees.
Thank you, Mark. Questions? Hearing none. I assume, Diane, there are no additional citizens' requests to speak this evening? All right, thanks, Diane. With that, if someone would make a motion, the board will be moving to a closed session. We will not be returning to open session. And as you make the motion, if you could read the language as it's printed.
Madam President, I move to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent B, parent C, parent E, parent F, to consider final notice of non-renewal of specific teachers, to consider discipline of specific employees, to consider negotiation strategy with the teachers union, and to deliberate regarding the sale and or purchase of public properties.
There is a motion by Lynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Roll call vote.
Robson, aye.
Bell, aye.
Holland, aye.
Van Loon and I.
German, aye.
Kaiser shot, aye.
We are adjourned to closed session.